All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Dungeon of Doom podcast. I am Ben Raven. He is Corey Woods.
What up, though? Happy Pi Day.
That's right. 313 Day, Pi Day. It's a week of celebrations. It is also free agency week in the NFL, the launch of the new league year. Yeah, been a weird week, man. Kind of slow, kind of fast, kind of weird, all over the place. The Lions have made 4 external signings. They have retained some of their own. They have cut ties with others, and other guys have landed deals elsewhere. We're going to run through that. And we also have our first Mailbag podcast of the offseason, courtesy of our new email address, dungeonofdoom@mlive.com. That is free to use. Send your questions there. Send your thoughts there. Send voice memos there. We'll feature it on the show. We'll give you a shout out and we'll answer your question. Win all around.
Absolutely. That sounds good. We're looking forward to this one.
Yeah, no doubt. That was something we'd been talking about for a while. So super happy to see that here. So make sure to write that down. Add it to your list. dungeonofdoom@mlive.com. But let's get right into it. The Lions, the biggest signing of the week. The biggest news of the week was landing cornerback DJ Reed, 3-year, $48 million contract from the New York Jets. It's an immediate, it came real quick on the heels of losing Carlton Davis to the New England Patriots, like super quick. Like you see that $50 or $60 million deal for Davis, then it was like the next notification was the Lions are signing DJ Reed. So, Corey, what do you think about that move?
Like, to your point, literally, as soon as I hit publish on the Carlton Davis departing, across my screen, DJ Reed. And when we were doing our, position group reviews for free agency, I had DJ Reed listed as a potential option, if potential fit. He was a free agent out there, said that for the right price, he seemed like he'll be pretty good, because all the things that we were kind of hearing in the wind was that Carlton Davis was looking for that lucrative deal, which he did get. I believe it was 3 years, $60 million with the Patriots, 34.5 guaranteed. That's a nice penny for a guy that has not played a full NFL season yet in his career. So to be able to get DJ Reed, a guy that's played alongside Sauce Gardner, who I believe last season, I think quarterbacks were 46% when he was a primary defender, and they had like a 63 passer rating. I mean, to be able to get a guy like that, I don't want to know if it's an upgrade or not, but to be able to have somebody that's at that level with him exiting and how quickly they got it done, that shows me that the Lions knew, like, hey, we know we need a pass rusher, but we also know that we have to address that CB1 or CB2, whatever, with Carlton Davis exiting out, and good for them for getting that done so quickly.
Yeah, I didn't think DJ Reed was a possibility, just because I assumed if they were out on Carlton Davis, they were going to be out on DJ Reed. Like, that's what I was thinking. Like, all right, if Carlton's out of their price range, then DJ Reed's out of their price range too. That's why you heard us actually talking about Darius Slay so much last week.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of assumed it would be like, all right, you got Terrion, you got Ennis Rakestraw, maybe just get a veteran to eat some of those snaps next year. Not just eat snaps, but start and help those guys and mold those guys. So I kind of assumed they were looking for a short-term deal. But DJ Reed, 3 years, $48 million. I mean, depending on who you trust the most, I think it was ESPN that had him as their top-ranked overall free agent. Like, he was never lower than third cornerback available. So, I mean,
yeah.
I love the deal, and getting to speak to him yesterday, and we'll let you hear from DJ Reed here in a minute. But like, I think a lot of fans are looking at his height. Like, he's listed at 5'8", right? Him and Amik Robertson are the same size. So the Lions are officially not scared of height. They don't care if you can't teach that. They're going for those feisty guys. And I will say that, like, he's only got 2 interceptions in 3 seasons, but like, that's not for a lack of being there, because last year from NFL Next Gen Stats, he played, well, this was from PFF. He played a little more than 30% of his snaps in man coverage last year. He has played a lot of zone schemes before, but being in New York, he played a lot more man coverage. And last year, he forced tight window throws. That means he is on there, no separation, tight window throws on 38 or 37.3% of his targets last season. That was the 4th highest rate in the NFL. I mean, he's feisty. I think it's 32 pass breakups in the same span that he only has 2 interceptions. So you can't even say he doesn't have ball production. He's just not getting interceptions. He's knocking that thing away. He's making tackles, and like, he's excited to work with Arnold and Rakestraw. He's excited to be in a cornerback room with two safeties like Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph behind him, because he's like, man, those guys are going to make my life easier. That's crazy. He called them both all-pro safeties. So I just think, you know what? The value, the player, just and the fit yesterday. I mean, that's the one thing. We got to speak to the Levi, Grant Stewart, DJ Reed, and Roy Lopez yesterday. And a reporter that's not always there turned to me and was just like, this team just does not sign turds. Like, I know it's hard to like figure out a guy from a press conference.
That's the Dan Campbellism right there.
Exactly.
There are no turds on this roster.
I know, exactly. And I was like, Dan has said that before. And he's like, they're all just gracious, good, authentic dudes. They're talking to us. Like, they're actually saying things to us. Like, every press conference went 15 minutes yesterday. So I like the fit and just, yeah. I guess, Corey, I'll spin a question to you. What do you think that secondary looks like? Do you think it's Arnold and Reed with Amik back on the inside at slot next year? Do they work Rakestraw into the equation? Because I know that's what fans are wondering.
I think at some point you're going to have to see what you have in Rakestraw, because I mean that was a high pick.
Mm-hmm.
So and then you have Amik. I don't want to say Amik's exiting, but Amik has 1 year left on his deal. So I mean he played well his first year. We're expecting him to recover. We don't play well after we recovered from the injury. So I think you do have to work in Rakestraw at some point. But I mean, we'll see in training camp if this combination of, Arnold, Reed, I mean, they pretty much committed long term for that.
Yeah.
And Robertson and Rakestraw, those I think those two probably might be the guys that's going to be competing for the playing time. But I mean, with the way Robertson played last year, it's kind of like Rakestraw has an uphill battle, but I mean, I think you got to work him in at some point to see what you have in him, because he was such a high pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there needs to be a slightly larger rotation there next year.
Yeah.
Especially if Rakestraw shows up to training camp and looked like he looked at last year's training camp before his hamstring injuries really just demolished his season and chances at playing time, because he looked, I mean, we were coming out of training camp and I was thinking Rakestraw might be the top rookie right now. Like, I'm talking just right now, right here, right now.
Yeah.
But, Arnold played a ton of snaps last year. They're expecting big things out of him. But I'll play you guys a clip from DJ Reed here. Well, producer Patrick will be the hero that plays you the clip here. But DJ Reed just talked about what he was looking for in free agency. And, man, I had Washington Commanders fans in shambles just crashing out in my mentions and quote tweets yesterday, because he said – I was, like, thrown off by it. Let me tell y'all something. When I tweet something like that, I immediately mute that conversation just because I was busy and doing press conferences.
That's you know what? That's a good rule of thumb, because the mentions are a terrible place.
DJ Reed was like, yeah, it was down to Detroit and Washington, and I went where I thought I could win a shot at the Lombardi. And all the Commanders fans are just like, oh, I guess you missed that BTA in the divisional round. And I'm like, he literally called your team a contender. Like, so yeah, here's DJ Reed right here. We'll get into the rest of the guys here soon.
It was out of Detroit and Washington for me, just with where I wanted to be. And I felt that those two teams were contenders. Detroit is crazy because before free agency started, early that Monday, I prayed to God. And I told him, like, whatever your will is, I want to go wherever you want me to go. And it's crazy because he literally gave me what my heart desired. I wanted to get paid. I wanted to play with dogs, and gratefully I'm playing with dogs on the defensive side and on the offensive side. So I'm going to a great team and, have a shot at that Lombardi. So that was my goal, is to, win a Super Bowl, come out, win a Super Bowl, and whatever happens after that happens after that. But I could, live life very happily with that.
You kind of had picked out the destinations you hoped to land before anything got going. Like, you identified these as the right fits for you.
Absolutely. I had several options of teams that were interested, but with the market value, with the number, and the two teams I wanted to go to, which were contenders, in my opinion, those were the two teams that I'm narrowed down to.
Yeah, just he seems like a fit. I enjoyed talking to DJ Reed yesterday. We got that story up at mlive.com/Lions. You also had something on Roy Lopez yesterday, who we got to talk to. Now, I know when that deal came through, 1 year, $4.65 million for someone who's viewed as a backup nose tackle, there were questions. listen, I'll just say it flat out. I do not think DJ Reader is a potential cap casualty. Like, the salary cap has continued to grow. His deal, even for his limited beginning of the season last year, is for DJ Reader, for a DJ Reader type, is a bargain in my opinion. You don't cut ties with that. Roy Lopez walks in with a cowboy hat on yesterday, and I was like, oh, this dude's cool. Walks in with his parents, talking about his high school wrestling past at 113-3. Classic wrestler stuff is, oh man, I hate those 3 losses more than I love those 113 wins. I liked Roy, man. You wrote about him. What'd you learn about Roy Lopez yesterday?
I said this. He had like a charismatic mix of confidence and humility. Yeah. Like I think he's going to be a guy that, you know, when other reporters get a chance to meet him and link up with him and talk to him, he seems like a guy that's going to give it to you straight, but also seems like he's willing to talk, willing to come in. And one thing that really struck me is this is a guy that, aside from 1 year, and I think, you know, aside from 1 year of his first year with the Cardinals, he's been primarily starting some games, primarily a starter, and he wants to come into this Lions defensive lineman room and learn from a Reader, learn from Hutchinson, spoke highly about Levi Owens-Rike. This is a guy that's coming in like wanting to be a part of the unit, and he just felt like a Dan Campbell guy. So to be able to have a guy like that just wants to come in there, and he's in the Liam McNeil as well. So be able to have a guy come in like that, wants to be a part of the team already, he's already knows what the lay of the land is here in Detroit, because talking to Trevor Nowalski and Ezekiel Turner, former teammates when he was with the Cardinals. At first, we had questions about the signing. After hearing him talk, it's like, okay, now I see the vision of why they brought this guy in here. He makes for them needing extra help in that defensive line. He is a guy that fits the mold of their culture and their character. And, you know, being able to have those guys around them, and you got Casey Rogers in there as well, going to be coaching that unit. We'll see, but right now it sounds really good on paper.
No, you took the thought out of my mind, because like when that deal did come through, I was like, man, why are they spending $5 million on a backup nose tackle? And then he walked into the room and talked for 2 minutes yesterday, and I was like, it's like that gif of like, oh, I get it. Like, it's like, I get it. All right, I see it now. And also, I will just say this: one of the football analyst names I respect the most out there seems to be a big fan of this guy, Nate Tice. I searched Roy Lopez's name at like midnight after the signing, and Nate Tice just got highlights of him. I'll say this: he like, looking at PFF grades last year, he didn't have the best run defending year, but there is some power. There's some interesting movement here in this guy that I think fans are really going to like. And he just seems hilarious timing. Go to the Arizona Cardinals YouTube page, because for some reason, 6 hours before Roy Lopez signed with the Lions, the Cardinals posted this like in-depth behind the scenes look at Roy Lopez and his family. So thank you, Arizona Cardinals, for that fodder and information. And I do want to just play you guys a pretty funny clip from Roy Lopez of when he met Dan Campbell.
From afar, he loves his players. He loves his city. He loves his organization. I'll tell you, from up close, I didn't know he was that big, to be honest with you. I told them, I made a joke. I was like, I knew he played. I didn't know he could still play. Like, that's crazy. Like, so I was like, man, bro. But, yeah, it was awesome. You know, you see it from afar. That's what I mean by the whole country. The whole NFL knows about the Detroit Lions, and that's because of the city. That's because of Coach Campbell. That's because of the culture they built here. They believe in each other. They believe in what they're building, and you know, on the outside looking in, and as a competitor, as someone that loves ball, it's intriguing, and it's a huge part of why I chose Detroit.
He's a big man. He's a big man.
Yeah, you know what? I think that for most people that, you know Dan play, but when you meet him in person, it's like, yeah, that's the correct impression, because it's just like, even us, I'm like, that is a big human being.
So, bro, I'm 6'6", 260, and when I stand next to Dan, I'm like, this guy could fold me into a ball and throw me away if he wanted me to. Do you
It's
know
crazy.
the amount of players that have come in here from outside teams and been like, I knew he used to play, but I didn't know he could still play.
Yeah, that was a classic line. That's
So,
a classic.
I like Roy Lopez. I love the combination with him and DJ Reader. I would just say, like, you know, it's time to show up ready to roll for Broderick Martin, man, because this is
That's a really great point there. Yeah.
That's who I'm worried about. A lot of people were talking about DJ Reader. I'm like, God, they ain't getting rid of DJ Reader. What are you freaking kidding me? They're about to have a full offseason with DJ Reader. They didn't get that last year. So that's where I'm looking there. Other signings, I'll just say linebacker Grant Stewart. He straight up said, like, there were opportunities to go to teams that had more question marks at linebacker that I could have gone in there and won playing time. But he's like, just everything I've heard about Detroit, everything. He's like, from the game, the Colts-Lions game last year, he's just like, I don't know. I wanted to be a part of something like this. And just the more I talked to them, the more I felt I wanted to be here. He's going to be a great special teams piece. The Athletics' James Boyd had a great piece on him. Also had great things to say about Grant Stewart. Just seems like he's going to be a nice person for us in the locker room and during training camp to talk to. Just, you know what I mean? Like, he was just open. Like, I liked him. I think that is with Anthony Pittman, with Ezekiel Turner, that's a nice three-headed little young hungry monster on special teams right there.
And also, too, just being able to have that guy come in where he's regarded for his work on special teams and Jalen Reeves maybe exiting, that was really cool. I mean, and then just looking at his production last year, he's a solid rotational piece. I mean, he had, 19 tackles in the game against the Dolphins. I'm like, what? I had to make sure I was reading that correct because I'm like, dude had 40 all year as a rotational piece and 19 of them came in one game?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
No, it is. It is for sure. A lot of these guys, I mean, even Roy Lopez and even DJ Reed and Grant Stewart, I mean, these guys, DJ Reed was a walk-on at Fresno State before he landed at Kansas State. Roy Lopez went from New Mexico State, I believe, to Arizona, starts 30 games in his first 2 seasons and gets cut and then lands with Arizona and builds his name back up. These are guys that have had to fight for everything they've earned in this league. And I just think you talk to them, you see their paths, and it's like, dang, there you go. Last night, 9 p.m., the Lions added a veteran backup quarterback, Kyle Allen. I don't know what to make of that, man. I don't think it's an indictment of Hendon Hooker. And I'll just say this, people talking about, we do have a mailbag question coming up about this. There's no trade value to Hendon Hooker. So I think this is just competition for everybody.
Yeah.
Not golf, but everybody else.
Yeah, that's what I thought about it. Cause they got, of course they got golf, but I mean, when you're looking at the backup situation, Teddy Bridgewater, everything looks like he's going back to high school coaching. They still had Jake Fromm on an early reserves deal. And then you bring in Kyle Allen, and now you still have Hendon Hooker. To me, it is like, okay, these guys are about to compete for QB2, QB3, and then one of these guys might be, either released altogether or put on the practice squad. And yeah, just to your point, when Lions fans are talking about these trade packages, there is this mythical thing where Hendon Hooker is just this valuable piece. And I'm like, if he was this valuable of a piece, I think his value kind of diminished when the Lions went out and brought Teddy Bridgewater back from high school football to become their emergency backup. Now, like you said, I don't think it's an indictment on Hooker per se, but I think that when you try to talk about his value on as far as a trade piece, I think that's kind of diminished on that point. I think if anything right now, like you said, it's QB competition, and we'll see this, this training camp if Hooker's the guy to be able to really lock down that QB2 spot.
Yeah, I think this even might be, let's just get another veteran voice in that room. It's the quarterback position, blah, 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 blah. But like, I'll just say this. If Hooker had the trade value that fans seem to think he does, I think he'd be gone already. Yeah. So let's just be real about that. I'm not crapping on the guy or anything like that. But I just wanted to say they also released Zadarius Smith. The Jalen Reeves-Maben release is official. They have re-signed Craig Reynolds, Dan Skipper, Moody, Davenport, Adams, Onzarike, Barnes, Pittman, Turner, and Norris. Michael Neese and Trevor Nowaski are also back. They have lost a couple guys. Fatu Malafan was going to the Miami Dolphins. Kendall Vildor with the Bucks. Carlton Davis with the Pats. Kevin Zeitler to the Titans for a 1 year, $9 million deal.
That was the shocker. That was a shocker to me.
Yeah, and I didn't realize about Tennessee either is that they're one of those states without an income tax. Apparently Zeitler's got family there. I mean, he's going into year 14, man, or 15 or something like that. So
say less.
Double your salary, no income tax, got family there. You know, welcome to the party, pal, Christian Mahogany. I would still fully expect the Lions to add a veteran offensive lineman either in free agency or trade, whatever. I not a big move or anything like that, but just to solidify the ranks. Glasgow's heading into the final year of his contract. Did not end the season on the best note. I still think fans are freaking out a little too much about Graham. Give that man some grace. He has earned it. He had a bad stretch at the end there, but the optimism for Mahogany should be there because it was impressive. He was even available to be on the field because, like, when he missed training camp and preseason, a lot of people were like, "Oh crap, are we ever going to see Christian Mahogany?" And now here we are, and he might be a starter.
Is that what the Holmes called him a dirt bag?
Dirt bag.
Yeah, and he when we finally saw him, he sure played like one, and I mean that in the kindest of ways. So yeah, I think for the money at first, when you look at it at first on surface, the money that Zeitler left for, it's like, whoa, Lions didn't give him that. But then when you hear all the other factors, like you said, family in Tennessee, no state income taxes, on the last, probably his last contract in the league. Okay, you want to go home? Hey.
I don't know what family he's got there, but I did see a couple national tweeters had that. But I'll just say this: the one move that I still don't get, and I understand it was a cap casualty and all that, but the release of Zadarius Smith, it saves nearly $11 million over the next 2 years. They didn't spend that on Kevin Zeitler. They have not spent it on an upgrade at edge defender. So I don't like that move. Keep Smith. You're not getting better at that price at that premium position. And I know Smith is older. I know he's got some tread on the tires. I know he wasn't a superstar when he got here, but he fit in well and he did make some big plays. And I just think, nearly $11 million saved over the next 2 years. But for what? Just these extensions. Right?
Yeah. I guess that was the more confusing thing about the Zadarius. Ooh, that was the tongue twister. The Zadarius release is that, okay, if you're releasing him, are you saying that there is an edge rusher out there on the free agent market that you've identified that can be the guy, or you're trying to free up room for a move? That's the reason that's what I'm like, okay, maybe Brad is just doing something. But when you release that guy and he's actually what you really need right now, you could have had him for a full offseason program, being able to get him next to Hutch. It's like, okay, I don't understand the release. And now, unless you're just going to focus strictly on the edge rusher, finding an edge rusher in the draft, you still need more. So, okay, who are you going to get out of free agency? Are you going to try to, spin the block and try to go back and grab them and just say, hey, let's try to work something out? Or are you just going to grab whoever else is out there available? Right. It just didn't make sense to release the guy that you actually need, and you still have to go draft an edge rusher anyway. It was pretty confusing.
Yeah, for a team that has been searching for edge depth since they got here, it's like, man, I understand the cap savings and stuff like that, but then you get the crazy team-friendly deal from Levi. We were literally in the media room the other day throwing around guesses. Some people said 3 for 36. I said either 3 for 30 or 2 for 20. The man signed for 1 year, $5.5 million. They don't re-sign Zeitler. They cut Zadarius Smith and save all that money. And I get it. You got these big extensions coming down the line. You got Kirby coming down the line. You got Hutch coming down the line. Those are going to be freaking large deals, large, top of the line. I don't think Hutch gets Myles Garrett money if he signs that deal this offseason, but it ain't going to be less than $35 million a year, in my opinion. And Kirby Joseph might be the league's highest paid safety. Just what he does with the ball. Those guys, there are a select few safeties that are worth that money, and I think he's one of those guys that is. But yeah, man, you're not replacing Zadarius Smith. You're not getting better. You're not finding a better edge at the price that you could have kept Zadarius Smith in. I know he had some bonuses kicking in. I know you saved this and that, but like, I don't know. I just think that part of the conversation got lost on some fans that were defending the move, and it's just like, man, you're just not getting better though. Like, and that wasn't a big deal. Like,
Yeah, I mean, shoot, you probably could have still made a big move for an edge or signed somebody else, and still, like you said, kept that deal. And I don't think it really was that much of an impact. But when you release him, you're expecting a move to follow that, and no move has been made. So it's like, okay, you might have to let's wait a couple more days or weeks,
right?
Maybe see what Zadarius market is, but that's a guy you might have to really go back and probably grab.
I know. The longer we talk about Zadarius, the more afraid I get that he signs tomorrow and 10 minutes of this podcast becomes useless. Like like the longer he stays on the market, the longer I do think that like, hey, why don't you call his number? But
yeah.
But let's get into our mailbag here. We got a couple questions to the Dungeon of Doom at mlive.com email. Hit it up. We got Matt Bowman. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on the Lions quarterback position? Keep Hooker as backup and Bridgewater like 2024, 2020, or just keep Hooker as a backup and Bridgewater, or trade Hooker if possible and get a veteran backup QB and then draft a late round quarterback this year. How much do you trust Goff and for how long? I'll start with that because I was terrible at framing that question. Hooker's the backup. Kyle Allen's coming in to compete for Jake Fromm and Hooker's job. There's no trading Hendon Hooker, like, unless you want to see him go for like a 2027 7th round pick. And I don't think they're in the quarterback market in the draft. And how long do I trust Goff? I trust Jared Goff for the length of his contract. I'm not out on Goff, man, at all.
Goff, and I said this, Goff just picked the worst time. He pulled a Josh Reynolds. He picked the worst time to have a bad game. But throughout the entire year, aside from, let me do it like this. If you take away that Houston game, Goff probably wins MVP.
He's top three.
Call me, so just call me crazy. Like you take away that Houston game, Goff wins MVP. He's played good to great football over these past couple of years. I think that, just things happen. But like you said, for the length of his contract, I would trust Jared Goff. I mean, this guy he's ranked in top 5, top 3 of all the QB metrics at the end of the season that people value. MVP finalists. I mean, like unless you're the Patrick Mahomes is not going to be up for trade. Lamar Jackson's not going to be up for trade. You got an MVP finalist as your QB. I mean, what more do you want? I mean, if you're talking about going and getting another QB, you're probably talking about going through another rebuild, and you're saying, hey, that window is closed right now. We're going to restart. And I think that as long as Jared Goff is healthy and the Lions have this cornered attack, that window is open.
Yeah, he's a franchise quarterback. We're not talking about a bridge quarterback anymore. This ain't 2021. Jared Goff, put some respect on his name because he's earned it. We got a Rama from California. I pray to God I said your name right because you love our show, you said. She wants to know, I find it odd that the coaching staff's expectations for James Houston, here we go, is to play like a first rounder, and they were riding him hard. But when it comes to Broderick Martin and Colby Sorsdale, there is nothing of that sort. They seem to treat these two softly, while both of them were drafted in earlier rounds than James Houston. The production of James Houston far outweighs these two combined. What is the reason of that treatment from the coaching staff? Although I love what Dan and company have done with the team, but this one puzzles me. You know what, Rama? I think one of the big mistakes of this coaching staff when it came to James Houston was their inability to just view him as what he was. And this is not a negative comment, but a one-trick pony. And that one trick was damn electric and damn elite. They kept trying, turn him into a linebacker, turning him to something he wasn't when they had a guy that had 8 sacks in 7 games. And like, I think they it's okay to focus on versatility on the rest of the defense, but for some reason they just I think they saw something in him. I think they really did see something in him and thought it could click somewhere else. But in reality, they should have just seen someone they should have had rest on the passer 10 to 15 snaps a game.
That's just that's just pretty much it. Some guys, like you said, some guys are who they are. He was a late round pick, but when you had him opposite Hutchinson, he was able to make things happen. Right. Just sometimes don't try to like you said, not a negative comment, but sometimes just don't try to outsmart yourself. Just ride the wave of what he's succeeding at. And, if there's something you need to switch up some looks, hey, swap somebody else in, use them as a rotational piece. I didn't understand that move at the time because, like you said, they were trying to do other things with him where it just made sense to just let him rush the passer alongside Hutch.
Yeah, and I don't think they're taking it easy on guys like Sorsdale or Broderick Martin. I just think the pub, like we get these guys in 15-minute bursts a couple times a week. So not everyone's talked about. I think maybe there was. I think it's your question is completely fair, but I think James Houston was talked about more, asked about more because of what he showed that rookie season. I mean, it was truly something special. So good question, but I don't think nobody's taking it easy on Broderick Martin or Corby Soulsdale. Like there ain't nobody getting days off.
The clock is on what they're gonna. On what they're going to be with this team. So yeah, well, it's more than people think. It's people are ready to see like, hey, it's going to happen. Where you going to contribute?
As Roy Lopez said yesterday, I don't think anybody's coming to this team trying to take it easy. It's made pretty clear from the gates that your ass is going to get the SHIT kicked out of it. Trent from Belding, Michigan. Belding, my high school rivals. Greenville high school crosstown rivals right there. What's up, Trent? Very curious to who you are because it's a small community over there. How many defensive line prospects do you legitimately believe to have first-round worthy draft grades on them? Dude, it's like 15. No, like it's honestly like 10 to 15, right?
The well is deep.
Like there's guys like TJ Sanders from South Carolina who I love, who might not be a first round pick, who might not be an early second round pick. And like, I don't know, man, Derek Harmon is one of those guys that like in any other year would be much higher in this draft. I mean, Shamar Stewart, right? What he does at the combine and athletic testing, and he's still like not cracking top 20s.
Well, you know what's crazy? I believe I read something for the Falcons. They're thinking he might go as high as somewhere in the 10s now.
There you go. Yeah, I really do think like, and Brad Holmes said it at the combine, and Brad Holmes doesn't speak in like yes or no's when it comes to this type of stuff, but it was just like, yes, this class is deep. And I mean, I really do mean it. I mean, it's double-digit defensive lineman guys, interior, edge defender guys. I mean, the well is seriously deep. And I mean, that is why I want to calm some people down. I know we just kind of got critical, as we should, about Zadarius Smith and our thoughts there, but like, trust in Brad Holmes because he's going to continue to do this thing in the draft. And for a team that needs some defensive linemen inside, outside, this is a very good draft. Don't even matter where you're picking at because seriously, man, there's first round talent all over the board. I mean, like I said, there's the last two guys I think we mocked to the Lions aren't even like first round picks by a lot of like mock draft guys, but
yeah,
like, there's the well is deep.
Like they're gonna get somebody regardless of how it goes. One of these guys they're gonna get is gonna be good, and bringing him inside that building, they could probably mold him into being great.
Yeah, and just with the top of names, I mean, 28's not a bad spot to be when it's this deep. Somebody's going to fall, man. Like, seriously, somebody's going to fall. And here we go. Bonus question from Trent from Belding. As the Lions general manager, put your GM hat on, Corey. You're going to start this one. Would you pass on the fourth or fifth best defensive line pass prospect if a player like Jihad Campbell or Tyler Booker or Will Johnson unexpectedly falls to pick 28? So just for a reference, the fifth best off defensive lineman right now is Donovan Ezeraku from Pro Football Focus. And I think Mike Green and Derek Harmon and Shamar Stewart are in that range. So yeah, would you pass if Campbell, Booker, or Will Johnson were there?
Ooh, you know what? Okay, here's the thing. If you go with Campbell, okay, yeah, you can get him because I believe Campbell has the versatility to play multiple positions. You can probably even use him as an edge. So Campbell will be interesting if he falls there. I think of the names, and if, Will Johnson, I don't think that's necessarily a name you got to go with. The one that really just stood out to me was Booker.
100%.
I mean, if Booker fell down to 28, that's where it's like, okay,
yep,
we have to have a real discussion about this one because this is a guy that is going to be darn good at the next level. And just off of talking to him at the combine, he's really impressive. I think that if Booker fell, if Jahad Campbell fell, okay, no brainer. But if Booker is there, that's like, okay, we really have to think about this one. Who else could we trade up and grab, in the second round and grab one of those other edges and get Booker right here because but Booker's going to be good. He's great. He graded really high on Pro Football Focus, and yeah, that's something you got to consider. Booker on the line with Penei Sewell would be,
bro.
Good luck.
He's not even 21 yet. He's 6'5", 330 pounds.
That's a massive man.
Like honestly, if he's at 28, don't think about it. Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't care. Honestly, Campbell, love him. Will Johnson would not be against that either. But if Tyler Booker is there at pick 28, shut up and get your butt to that podium.
Yeah.
Because even if he's not ready out of the gates as a first round pick, you still got 1 year of Glasgow left. This can work. That is how you keep a better strength. I fully agree with you there. So well said, Corey. We got one coming in from Charles. Hey, fellows. I wanted to hear your thoughts on extending Jameson Williams this offseason and what it would cost. I thought he showed a lot of improvement. These suspensions, seemingly only eating food from convenience stores, is a bit concerning, but he brings another element to their offense that cannot be easily replaced. That's awesome. Good job, Charles. I'm just going to say it like this. I fully expect Jameson Williams to have his 5th-year option picked up, but the Lions are going to take and this is not an insult to anybody, and it should be understood on both sides, and I think it's the best case scenario for both sides. Take every bit of time you have allotted. Just Jameson's injury history, the off-field concerns. Yes, last season was awesome. 1,000 yards, big play threat. I'm all on board with the JMO train, baby. That is a special weapon in the league's best offense. But pick up that 5th-year option. Drag this out for as long as you can, respectfully. Be open and honest with JMO about it, but you need to make sure that last year is here to stay.
Ride the wave. It's not something that you need to do immediately. Just see if he can not only continue to keep up that production, but also finally have a year where there is no hiccups, no injuries, no off the field incidents. He's just coming in. Don't want you to keep being who he is, because that's what makes him great in on the field and in the locker room speaking to him. But just you're not in a position where he's a guy that is high on the priority list of you have to retain him. Ride the wave and see if he can keep himself out of just keep himself without any kind of distractions for a full season, and then revisit it after that. But yeah, you don't have to do this right now.
No, you don't, because that 5th-year option comes in, I think, at more than $10 million. So it's not like he's making dollars on the cent. But yeah, just knee injuries, gambling, guns, and performance enhancing violations in 3 years.
He's collected a lot of Infinity Stones.
yes he has. I was gonna say. So yeah, it's as long as he is who he is, and last year is here to stay, minus the suspension and the potential gun charge that got wiped away and he got cleared of. But you just time is valuable here. So I think we're aligned there. All right, Derek Brooks wants to know, are there any Malcolm Rodriguez or Mekhi Wingo updates? Will either be ready for season opener? Corey, you sat next to Malcolm Rodriguez the other day. It didn't seem like he had crutches or anything, right?
No, Malcolm looked like he was just got through practicing. he was all smiles, looked like he was in good shape. Wasn't walking gingerly or anything like that. And that was during the Derek Barnes presser, so you guys know the context of that. So yeah, he looked good from just as far as moving as a person. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be ready, at least for training camp or whatnot.
Yeah, his injury happened late in the season, so that was obviously concerning, but it wasn't at the back half. I think it was week 10 or week 11. It might have been the same game as Wingo, even maybe too. So I think it happening a little earlier before the end of the season in the playoffs gives him a good chance. And no updates on Wingo, but we did get to see Rodriguez yesterday, and I don't think they'd be wheeling him in front of us if he was still limping around and stitched up, and struggling or anything like that. So yeah, good stuff this week. Continue to send those questions to the Dungeon of Doom at mlive.com. Email address, thoughts, concerns, questions, mailbag questions, future questions, voice memos, drop a line, figure it out. We'll see what the weekend brings, but free agency is kind of slowing down and it never really took off steam here. So just with everything said, let's just remember one thing. Brad Holmes, forever, then, now, and forever is going to build this thing through the draft. And I think this week just puts another rubber stamp on that.
I mean, I got raked over coals from fans for me even interviewing this guy at the combine. But like Joey Harrington said, this team went 15-2 with a bunch of their main first and second string defenders on the IR. They don't need to really go out and make if they went out and got a splash move as far as a pass rusher through the trade market, okay, great, pair him with Hutchinson. But there wasn't really a splash move in free agency that you could really kind of justify Brad Holmes overpaying a guy when, lack of a pass rusher was the reason the Lions didn't go further in the playoffs last season. But the problem is, those guys were all injured.
Right.
They were pulling guys off the street. So, I think just right now, play the waiting game, see how it goes out. No Lions fans are antsy because this team has been in the position some have never even really seen in their lives. They've never had a 15-2 season. So just wait, calm down. It'll be all right.
Yeah, they're running it back with the belief that what happened last year isn't going to happen again. So I would hope it wouldn't happen again, because what happened last year was absolutely wild, and I do think people need a reminder of that. Just have some faith in this regime. They have earned it. This is not us doing lip service. They literally went 15-2 last season, despite all of the injuries on the defense, and running it back with the NFL draft still to come. I mean, hey, getting Levi back, that's a big win, especially at that cost. Getting a guy like Roy Lopez, that's more depth. We'll see what else happens. Marcus Davenport's a lottery ticket. He's played 3 games in 2 years. We don't know, or 4 games in 2 years, 6 games in 2 years, whatever it is. It's not a lot of games in 2 years, but we'll see. But this was your free agency recap, mini mailbag. I am Ben Raven. He is Corey Woods. We are your Dungeon of Doom podcast.